Morning, everybody, and welcome to March Moti-Vitality member exclusive webinar. I appreciate everybody joining us. Those of you that are on live as well as watching this on recording. Real quick, before we get started, I want to say that if you are going to be in Orlando next week, unbelievably, next week, a week from today, we will be down in a booth at booth 937 at the Water Quality Association National Convention. And if you're going to be down there, please, stop by and see us. Jen's mentioning to me privately that maybe I should let her do a little bit of housekeeping. We do have some new faces, our new names on here. So, Jen, if you want to unmute yourself real quick and talk about just very briefly expanding the screen and the chat box there, that'd be fine, and we'll start on this.
Sure. If I sneeze, I'm sorry. I'm about ready to sneeze. Just for those of you, well, even probably returning, we love participation, but we do have a chat box. And so your chat box, you can go to, it's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And when you click on that, it'll bring up a box. At the bottom of that box, it's going to have a send to, and there's a drop down. When you hit the drop down box, right now it's set to Kelly Thompson, host and presenter, but if you go up one name, then you can click on there, and that way everybody can see the chat. Or if you want to talk to Kelly or chat with Kelly just individually, you can just click on his name. Same thing with me. If you want to chat individually with me, you can just click on my name. If you want to make the screen bigger, then there is just above Kelly's screen, his slide, there's a picture of arrows that go diagonally. Click on those, and that makes it a full screen. If you do that, then the way that you get to the chat screen or the chat box is where it says viewing Kelly Thompson's application. You'll hover over that, and it brings a drop-down box, and you'll be able to hit the chat or mute me if you need to mute. Kelly has everybody muted, so if you want to unmute yourself, just go ahead and click on that unmute. I think it'll say unmute me. Click on that. And I think that's about it. Eating and drinking is fine as long as it's coffee with reverse osmosis water. So enjoy. I hope you guys love it.
All right. So for those of you, if this is your first time, I do see a couple new faces on here. Sometimes it takes me a minute because I'm kind of getting into what I'm saying and everything. It takes me a minute to see the chat. So if I don't respond immediately, then I'll those. I do have those off on the side of my screen. But we do these as part of being a member of Moti-Vitality, and you get the monthly webinars. We do our free and exclusive to Moti-Vitality members every month. We do archive those. So if I'm still getting Jen, that might be you.
Yes.
So I do get I do archive these, so they are on recording, so you can go back and look at last year's webinars all the way through the ones we've done so far this year. So there are hours and hours and hours of different topics and webinars. We do try and alternate them, so every other month we'll have one geared directly towards salespeople. That's what this month is, and then each month after that we try and do it more geared towards owners and managers, although all are welcome. So last announcement here before we get started is that we are starting a new, for those of you that are interested in getting WQA certified, we are going to begin our new live basics course. That's if we're looking for somebody to mentor you, or if you're just wanting some guidance to get through the course, then let us know. That begins May 4th. We're going to start with the basics and work our way all the way through the design module to help get people certified. So we're just finishing that up now. But we got one person at least on this call I know that's ready to take the exam here in Orlando next week. So anyway,
Kelly?
let's get started. So,
Kelly?
as always, yes?
Can I just say one more quick thing?
Yes.
I want to say Happy World Water Day to everybody. And remember that what we do has a global impact. We don't just go out and sell water softeners and drinking water systems. Everything we do has a global impact. So take a few minutes today and educate yourself on World Water Day, and give yourself a pat on the back for making a difference for everybody.
Wow.
Group hug.
So, group hug. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I want to thank everybody for being on. It's always my goal to make sure that the information I give to you is at least as valuable as the time that you're giving to me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then we're going to start off the same way I start about every webinar also, which is by reminding you that really there's only one sales secret that you have to remember, and that is to give more than you take. When you walk into a home, when you're dealing with your coworkers or people in your personal world, at the end of the day, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, today I gave more than I took, you're probably going to be doing okay. Sales is pretty easy when you never really need a fancy closing technique or any kind of trickery in order. If you have offered more than you've asked for, then asking for the sale or asking for the opportunity to help somebody should come easily. So give more than you take. Let's get into the webinar. So words matter, and we're going to talk about some words. I mean, there are some people, we talked about this a couple months ago, and we talked about natural versus practice, skill. Skill, some people have some natural ability. They're just people who are charismatic. People like them. It matters to them. They are just able to, people trust them. They like them. They're charismatic. They just get along with people, and they have some natural sales ability. But I've seen a lot of people that had a lot of natural sales ability that were just average sales professionals, just kind of going about doing an average job at it. And I always thought, man, they could be so much better if they were able to hone their skill. And one of the ways of doing that is to really take a look at the vocabulary, at what you're saying and how you say it, and even mannerisms and how you present yourself. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. Words do matter. What you say, sometimes saying the same thing in a different way matters. And so a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is coming directly from Tom Hopkins. I'm going to take some material directly from him, and then another gentleman that I've been following on Twitter and Facebook that I have some really great articles that are coming out in various publications across. I actually was introduced to him initially through LinkedIn, so it's kind of cool. I see some names on here that I don't often see on these. I just want to, again, say thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to serve you guys in this way. But anyway, one of the things Tom Hopkins says, he says emotions can trigger the sale. And we all have heard that. Everybody's heard that. Sales is an emotional thing, right? People buy on emotions. And I do believe that. I do believe that, sometimes people, I certainly make impulse buys. I'll buy something sometimes and then wish I hadn't bought it later, and I know we're all running into that. I happen to believe that people do ultimately make the decision on emotion, but then they justify that decision with logic and with fact. And so I think you have to have a healthy combination of both. But because people do make decisions, at that moment they make decisions on emotion, then we have to be aware of what emotional impact our words have on them. Okay, so emotions can trigger the sale, but emotions can also destroy the sale. You can destroy a sale just as rapidly as you can create it. Every word creates images in your mind, and I think that's really key. Tom Hopkins, he's one of my favorite sales trainers. He's been around a long time, and quite honestly, I read quite honestly, by the way, is one of the words that I'm going to suggest you don't say, and I have to catch myself to not say that stuff. As I'm saying that, I just realized that's going to be on the next slide, and I'm going to be doing it. It's kind of funny. Anyway, the Tom Hopkins, he's been around a long time. I like his stuff. Some of it's a little old school, and I don't think that some of it totally keeps up with the modern day. But there's such a small percentage of that I think that way about. And actually, there's probably people out there that really disagree with me on that too. I mean, he's absolutely worth reading and studying and following. And if you ever read any of his books, you're going to hear so much of my style and what I do that comes from Tom Hopkins. He's really good. He's one of my favorites. But anyway, I really like this, and we are going to talk about some of his danger words to stay away from here. And then this is the other guy. Let's see, this dude. Okay, never mind. I'm out of the order of my presentation. So I got ahead of myself there. So we do make certain assumptions when it comes to salespeople. Okay, as consumers, when we look at a salesperson, we make certain assumptions. And that can be highlighted. We've talked about this a lot before too, with service and sales professionals. If you take me as a sales professional, somebody who's been doing this 2 decades, I've been in thousands of homes, have sold thousands of pieces of equipment. I think I'm one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to the water treatment industry out there. But you take me, dress me up like a sales guy, and take somebody who's brand new in the industry, somebody that's never been in a home before, and put them in a service uniform. Who's the customer going to trust? It's going to be the service technician every time. That service technician automatically has a certain credibility that I just don't have. And so that's because I'm a sales guy. And when you think about salespeople, people make certain assumptions about salespeople. I mean, why is it that they don't want to tell us, let's say, if you come right out and you don't word it the right way? I mean, I think it is important to ask somebody how much they want to spend and what their budget is. But if you come right out and say, how much do you want to spend on this? A lot of customers, not all of them, but a lot of customers are going to downplay how much they want to spend, or they're just not going to tell you at all. And that is because they know that salespeople take that and double it, and take it and spend it, and it starts off automatically, this consumer and sales relationship, salesperson relationship, it starts off with this suspicion right from the beginning. And so there are things, we have to be able to overcome that. We have to create trust right from the beginning. Do they expect us to follow up? I mean, think back to the last time you bought a big ticket item, or even a small ticket item. You probably heard from the salesperson quite a bit. If they were any good, you probably heard from them quite a bit. They called you a bunch right before the sale. You followed up. Brandon, I think of you, this one we've been talking about on the MD Pro call, where you, had the appointment 5 months ago, and you sent them a thank you note, and you kept calling them and following up. Well, it's not totally common that happens, but good sales professionals do that. They follow up. Now the key, does that customer expect to hear from you again in 3 months or 6 months or a year? Are they going to expect to hear from you? And my guess is the answer is no. They will be surprised when you send them a personalized letter in 6 months, or when you make a phone call, hey, I just wanted to make sure everything was okay, see how the baby was doing. Would that surprise them? They don't expect us to follow up with them after they've made the sale. They just don't expect that. What do they think when we grab the contract? This is one of the things that came directly from Tom Hopkins. I went to one of his seminars, and he was kind of doing this role play. And you think about you have your briefcase with the paperwork or your clipboard with the paperwork in it, and you get them sitting at the table and they sit around. And what happens when you open up that clipboard and you grab out the sales contract and you start writing on it? If you can visibly, I see this, I know Jen does too, because we ride along with sales professionals as we're training them, we watch them, and we've seen salespeople do this. They reach in their bag or in their clipboard and they grab a contract, and you can visibly see the body language change from the customers. They go from being relaxed to, all right, here we go. Because then it changes with them. So, words and actions matter, the way you create it, the way you do that. Tom Hopkins suggests getting that paperwork out and having it on the clipboard right from the very beginning. From the moment you walk in the house, when you're asking questions and you're making notes on that paperwork. So throughout the course of the presentation, they see that they're used to you writing on that paperwork. They realize that it's not just a contract, that it is actually something valuable in the paperwork. So the thing is, with all those assumptions and many, many, many more, we're not going to go into all of those on this call, but with many more, the point is, if we want to be treated differently than the average salesperson, than most salespeople, then we have to act and talk differently. And this circles back around to that natural versus practiced skill, that ability. Skill matters, okay? So, there are guys I know that you grew up, or ladies that you grew up and went to school with, that just had a natural athletic ability, but they're always just going to be athletically inclined unless they practice. I mean, Peyton Manning, or I hate to say it because the guy is just almost too good, it makes me uncomfortable, Tom Brady, and Michael Jordan, and I mean, just look at every professional athlete. We talked about this a couple months ago in one of the calls. Just look at them all. What made them so good with championship after championship after championship is not the natural athletic ability. It's the skill. It's the practice. It's the honing of that skill. And one of the things that I want to do on this webinar is to give you some things that you can begin to practice on to hone your skill. Because if you have a desire to help somebody, or you've got quote unquote the gift of gab, or you're charismatic, or people like you, then you can, there are things that you can do. That's awesome. That gives you kind of a head start. Except that sometimes people where it comes harder, they're going to sell circles around you. Sometimes those people who don't have that natural sales ability, you'll lose sales to them constantly because they practice and they want it and they hone their skill and they make it really, really, really good. So, if you want to beat them, if you want to be better than they are in sales, then take your natural sales ability and hone the skill. So here's this is the guy I was spacing on his name a while ago when I was all discombobulated at the beginning of this webinar. So Frank Viscatas, he's pretty good. Like I said, there's been a lot of articles that I'm seeing on him. I've only been following him for a while, but for a few months. But so far, I really like him. He's got some really good stuff. So I recommend you follow him, read some of his articles, and it's been pretty good. I mean, there's nothing really new out there. Even this webinar, the stuff that I do, it's all the same. Sometimes it just is a it's said in a slightly different way, which is kind of nice. Sometimes you hear it in a slightly different way, and sometimes it's a reminder of something that you've forgotten. But here's some words and phrases to avoid when you are in a sales presentation. And by the way, one of the best ways to see if you are doing these things is to record yourself. I just wrote an article in one of the magazines just recently about this, and some of you have heard me talk about this a lot. Record yourself. Use your phone or get a digital recorder, and when you go into the home, If you are uncomfortable just recording it, or if you're in a state where you're not allowed to do that by law, then ask the customer, say, do you mind if I record myself during this presentation? You ask it that way. See, words matter. See, if you say, do you mind if I record this conversation or record this presentation? You might get some people that are skeptical. Okay, or do you mind if I record you? That's definitely different. But if you say, do you mind if I record myself during this presentation? I've been really trying to make sure that I'm wording things properly, and I want to be able to listen to it later and make sure that I'm telling you everything that I should be telling you accurately. I have done that countless times, and so far have never once had a customer tell me, no, I don't feel comfortable with it. Now, I have had some other salespeople say, oh, I had a customer that didn't feel comfortable with it. So I guess it could happen. Somebody may not want you to do it, but if you word it that way, if you word it as, you know, do you mind if I record myself? I'm really trying to improve. So what if you have one customer who says, no, I don't want you to do it? Go to the next one. Hopefully you have more than one appointment that you can do that with. But you're going to hear yourself, you're going to catch yourself saying a lot of these things. I do myself. I know not to say these things. I practice. I try not to do it. And I go back and I review these webinars sometimes to see how much of an idiot or whatever. And I cannot believe how often I say some of the things that I'm about to tell you to avoid. So you're not going to be perfect at it, not by any means. But if you can minimize them or try and avoid them or be aware of them and practice different ways of saying things. Change the way you say the words. So avoid, one of the big ones is honestly. I say quite honestly, or to be completely honest. I say that sometimes. And, you know, the truth is, see, look, the truth is, when you say that, it says to the, well, look, let me be honest with you. When you say that to a customer, they're going, okay, you weren't a minute ago? You weren't honest? That might be, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, it is a phrase. It's what people expect. You know, sometimes people may not ever even think about that. But there are some people out there that are going to go, okay, oh, now you're being honest. You weren't a few minutes ago, but now you're being honest. So now, okay, tell me what you're going to say honestly now so that I know. Another one that kind of goes right along with that is believe me. You're going to love it. Believe me. I hear somebody on the news just about every day, believe me, it's going to be the best thing you've ever seen. Believe me, it's going to be the absolute greatest. Believe me, you're going to love it. Okay? That believe me is, it's why? Unless they have a reason, unless they have a, I know it's just a phrase, I know it's a manner of speaking, and a lot of these are just a manner of speaking. But if you can avoid those, you know, that believe me thing all the time, if you're saying it constantly, then people are going to start to take note of it. And my opinion is that if you're going to say believe me, you have to have something there, some evidence to back that up. You've got to be able to demonstrate why they should believe you. And hopefully you don't even need to say believe me. Hopefully your actions will speak louder than words. This one is one that came from Tom Freeze. I got this, I've heard it a few other times, but Tom Freeze, who wrote Secrets of Question-Based Quiz, if you wrote, see, words matter. Secrets of Question-Based Selling. He talked about this word, and I catch myself still saying this, but it's so true. When we do this, we are, by human nature, we're contrarians. We like to one-up each other. It's just, I don't know why, but people, they do it. You know, somebody says, man, it's a beautiful day, and you're talking to your friends, it's a beautiful day outside, and they go, actually, it's a little cool. Or actually, the sun's too bright for me. Actually, I prefer it way cooler. What you're saying there is, you're right, I'm wrong. The word actually is basically, you're wrong, I'm right. And if you're using that word a lot with your customer, then you are telling them that they are wrong. Whether they recognize that you're telling them that or not through the course of the presentation, it is what you're doing. I catch myself saying it when I'm doing a key demonstration, for example. And I'll ask people, so which one of these do you think is which? Which one is the reverse osmosis water versus the tap water? And a lot of times people will say that the darker one, the one that has all the foam and the stuff all over it, they say, well, that one looks weak. They'll say that about the RO water. So they'll say that the darker one is the good water because it looks stronger. It looks like better tea, or it looks like what they're used to drinking. And so I try and avoid saying, well, actually, this is the good water here. Because even though it's a correct statement, Jen, I see you saying in there, I'm not going to lie, is another way of saying believe me or honestly. So, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I'm not going to lie to you. But this, going back to the tea here, what I usually do when somebody says, I say, so which one of these do you think is which? And if they say it's the tap water, I will continue on with the question. I won't say, well, actually, this is the good water. What I will do is continue to ask them questions. So I'll say, okay, which one of these, Lipton tea is orange pekoe tea, which one looks more orange to you? Which one of them looks like the tea on the front of the Lipton box? Which one? And so they come back on, and when they will then say, oh, so that is the good one. I say, yes, it is. Now, one of the things I will sometimes say, instead of actually this is the good one, I will say, a lot of people say that because it looks darker, it looks like that. But I avoid that word actually. So catch yourself, look for that. That if you're saying the word actually a lot during your presentation, and you're contradicting your customer, then what you're basically doing with that word is telling them they are wrong, you're right. And a person they don't like to be told they're wrong. Obviously is another word. Well, obviously you're going to really enjoy the benefits of this. Obviously you'll use this. So sometimes it may not be obvious to them. And the word obviously, if it's used too much, can seem a little condescending. Can seem a little arrogant. But don't forget, I hear that a lot. Well, obviously, you're going to use less soap and detergent. Somebody's had a water softener for 20 years. And obviously, the benefits of this. They may not know the benefits. They may have had a water softener for 20 years and that they bought from their plumber or that was in the house when they moved in. And the only thing they know about the water softener is that when they run it out of salt, that the water starts smelling a little bit, or they get some staining. The other benefits that they get may not be that obvious to them. But when you say the words obviously, what you're doing is you're kind of limiting their desire to ask you questions for clarification. So you say, well, obviously you know the benefits, and they go, yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't know the benefits of a water conditioner? I mean, yeah. And so they're not going to ask you things that they don't know. So avoid the word obviously. This is one, I remember, I went to school for speech communications, theater and speech. And we never really talked about this in any of my speech classes in college. Where I learned to really be most aware of the filler words, the quote-unquote filler words, was Toastmasters International. I don't know if you're familiar with Toastmasters. If there's a local Toastmasters in your area, I strongly encourage you to go visit one if you want to improve your communication and the way you're presenting yourself and the way you're speaking. Toastmasters is awesome. It's a community service organization. They do things in the community, but their focus is on communication. And a lot of times the groups that I have been to, they have counters. So basically there's somebody that was responsible. Every time somebody spoke, they were responsible of counting the filler words. Well, basically, and those are all filler words. Those are words that you say when you're trying to think of the next word to say. They're filler words. It's better to have silence, to pause, to wait silently instead of having that filler word than to have all those filler words. I don't know if you've ever watched a presenter. Somebody that says a lot of those ums or ers or ahs, it can get annoying is a big one, or like, yeah, like, you know, it was, well, basically it was over there. That can get really annoying after a while. I say, I mean, I say, you know, I catch myself saying those things as well. Again, you are not going to completely eliminate them from your speech, from your presentation, but you can, if you are aware of them, you will begin to be able to minimize them. Watch yourself or listen to yourself. You're going to catch yourself doing it, and I can tell you, if it annoys you on your, you'll listen, you will notice, you'll notice it probably more than your customer notices it, but that's good, because then you can eliminate it. You can, there are little things. I mean, I watched, we recorded one guy one time, he was clicking his pen the whole time. You know, so it's not only words, it's also actions or little quirks or little things that you're doing. Acronyms, that's a big one in our industry. I think in any industry, I run into this when I'm training new people. I forget sometimes I'm talking about RO and I forget. They don't know what RO is, or when I'm out in a presentation. Everybody on this call knows RO. We all call it an RO. You talk to them about an RO? Yeah. What was their TDS? Customers don't know what RO or TDS is. So be aware that when you're talking about those things that you should call it, you know, another one is WQA. What the heck is WQA or NSF? Nobody knows what those things are. NSF, WQA. Well, the NSF says that an RO membrane should be able to get your TDS down to no more than 10 ppm. Be careful of what of those acronyms. Your customers don't know what they are. Reuse words are also words that you want to avoid. Integrated or cutting edge. This is cutting edge technology. The elegant look of this water conditioner as it's tucked in behind your furnace will be, it will be seamless. The install will be absolutely seamless as they integrate this system with cutting edge technology into your water treatment delivery system, whatever. Just avoid those words that sound like somebody who just recently graduated with a marketing degree wrote the brochure. Okay, those are the words for the brochures. They're not the words for you to use in the home when you're talking to real people that are considering purchasing water treatment equipment. All right, so these are rejection words. This came straight from Tom Hopkins here too, and these are I hear people use these a lot, and I strongly recommend that you avoid them. One that's on here is appointment, which I forgot to put on here. But okay, so let's look at alternatives. Let's look at different phrases, different words that we can replace these with. So rejection words are any word or phrase that triggers a fear or makes them feel you are trying to sell to them. Okay, or trying to sell them. People don't like to be sold. They love to purchase, they love to buy, but they don't like to be sold. Okay, and so cost or price. What's an alternative word? I'm going to unmute you guys. Let's talk about these, and you guys throw out what you think some alternative words for cost or price would be. Unmute all. I only unmuted April. So unmute all. If it gets too loud, we'll mute everybody again. But what do you think of cost or price? An alternative word. What would be a better word for, you know, when somebody says, when you're talking about the price or the cost of it, what do you guys think would be a better word for this?
Investment.
Investment. Great. Great. Yes, investment would be a great word. So that's what about monthly cost or monthly payment or down payment? Down payment or monthly payment?
Initial investment.
Initial investment. Thank you, Jen. Monthly payment is your monthly investment. Okay. Does that sound a lot less like down payment or monthly payment? Does monthly investment sound a lot less threatening than monthly payment to you, just as the listener? Do you guys agree that that sounds a lot less threatening? It does to me. I don't know. What about contract? Somebody give me another word for contract. We're going to sign the contract.
Agreement.
Another way of saying agreement. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, agreement or paperwork. Okay. So yeah, agreement. So a contract in and of itself, it sounds very long term. It sounds very threatening, and I think that the word, it makes people really give a lot more consideration to whether or not they want to get involved in a contract. So a sales agreement, or a purchase agreement, or an investment agreement. Those words, sometimes they, may not make a difference. Sometimes they matter. What about buy?
Invest.
Invest, yeah. Yeah, invest. I think that's a good one. Or own. So, when you're talking to the customer and say, oh, I sold your neighbor a system last week. What's another way of saying that? Instead of sold, I sold your neighbor. I sold them a system last week. They signed a contract. I sold them a system last week. They just signed a contract a couple days ago.
I helped them out. I helped them with their water.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, we were able to help them with the system last week. Actually, just went installed a couple days ago. We were able to serve. We've served many of your neighbors. We've been able to help a lot of your neighbors with their water. I like that. I think that sounds a lot less threatening than we sold a ton of systems in the subdivision. We've been able to help a lot of people in the subdivision with their water. Which one sounds less salesy to you? What about sign? What's another word for sign?
Initial or approved. John Hancock in here.
Yeah, John Hancock's one. Yep. Stacey, approve is a good one. The one that I most love that I see, I think a lot of times in sales, if you can empower the customer and make sure that they understand that it's completely their decision, then approve is a good one, because approve is an empowering word. That's, if you will just approve here or approve the paperwork here. My favorite is authorize. I just need your authorization here, because if they're authorizing the paperwork or authorizing the investment, you are empowering them. If you're asking for their authorization, it gives the power to them, and that's key. I love the word authorize. That's my favorite of them. You guys have any other suggestions on that one? So what about pitch? It's my sales pitch. Well, that's my pitch.
I have to say that is probably one of my least favorite words when I talk to somebody that's in sales, and they'll say something about, yeah, well, when I give my pitch, that word just, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me.
It really annoys me too. I don't like that one either. But what's an alternative?
Presentation.
Presentation, very good. Presentation or demonstration, exactly. So, and that's, yeah, pitch is, I don't know, it just pulls images of Glengarry Glen Ross in my head. It pulls up, I think about all the times that salespeople have pitched me, and that one really bugs me a lot. So presentation or demonstration, I think are excellent. What about deal? The sign the deal. I sold 3 deals this week. I mean, you hear people say that, right? What comes to your mind when I say I sold 3 deals this week? I mean, besides you being jealous, Brandon. So, I think Brandon's on it. Throw somebody else in. So somebody else I could give a hard time to.
I helped out.
What's that?
Just I helped out. I helped out.
I helped 3 people. I helped 3 people. It's the same thing. We had 3 installs. we scheduled 3 installs this week. Okay, but deal is another one of those words that is just, I don't know, it's kind of it pulls up that negative impression, that negative emotion. And we want to avoid these words. Appointment, when we're at home shows, I didn't put this one on the list, and I meant to. When we're at a home show and or when we're out there canvassing, we're talking to somebody, and you talk about setting appointments. Okay, who do you set appointments with? You set appointments with doctors or lawyers or accountants. And when you set an appointment with somebody, there's something wrong usually. It's a negative. Nobody likes setting a dentist appointment, but they do it because they got to get their root canal done. You know, nobody likes going to the dentist and setting a dentist appointment. So when I'm at the home show and I'm talking to customers, instead of saying, well, you know, do you want to look at your schedule and schedule an appointment for me to come out there? I never say that because I am going to put it on the calendar. I am going to schedule a time to come out, but I'm not going to set an appointment with them. What I'm going to do is, you know, if you want, I can swing out sometime next week, say Tuesday at 4, I swing by, say 4 o'clock on Tuesday, because who swings by or who pops in? Friends swing by or pop in. Now you're scheduling a time, you've got it on the calendar, it's committed, but it's not an appointment. Okay, it relaxes, it's a relaxation word. Anybody else have any on that list that we need to talk about? Okay, let's move on then. All right, these are some words that I have found work really well for me when I'm kind of soft closing or when I'm looking at whether or not, trying to gauge whether or not somebody has an interest. I will say, if you were to put in a system, would you want to address both the water conditioner and the drinking water, or just the drinking water? If you were, it's a non-binding little way to find out if you were going to put this in or put a new system in, would you want us to cut out the old plumbing and put in new bypass valves for you? So if you were going to put in a reverse osmosis system, would you want it under your sink or would you want it in the basement? Would you want this to drain to your sump pump or would you want it to go to your septic? So if you were is a great way to help them view ownership of whatever they're doing without making them commit. It gives you an idea of how to guide them to where they need to be without making it very in your face, very hard sell. This is another one that I really love. Do I have a comment? Okay. This is another one. I have everybody unmuted here, so if feel free, and I'm not getting a ton of background noise, so feel free to pop in if you have a question or a comment here. Another one that I love is, does it make sense? So does it make sense to schedule the installation before you put in your new appliances? Does it make sense to, so you said you're going to kind of give it some thought, does it make sense to go on and fill out the financing paperwork so at least that part's done if you guys decide to go ahead? So that doesn't make sense. When you're setting the appointment, does it make sense to have both of you there? If you're anything like my wife and I, when we make big house decisions like this, she has questions I don't think of, and I have questions she doesn't think of, and then when we get together, we have questions together. So does it make sense to schedule it on an evening or a weekend when both of you can be there? I love the phrase, does it make sense? It's just a lot softer, a lot less in your face, a lot less threatening to customers. And then I wanted to throw this one in. I got this was, these are analogies, just an example of different kinds of analogies that you can use. And there are tons of these. Like I said, words matter, and you can take a look at your presentation. You can learn these. This is part of the skill. It's part of being able to draw those mental pictures that are not threatening, but that explain something. So this one, I didn't make this up. This actually came from a couple of years ago. We had one of our MD pros, one of the sales professionals that we had hired and trained with zero experience in the water treatment industry. I have no idea where he heard this, but with his permission, I started using it, and I love it. It's awesome. So when I'm talking about chlorine in the being put in the water from the city. And we talk about, chlorine it's a good thing that since we started chlorinating our drinking water, death and illness from microbiological contamination has dropped to basically non-existent in the last several years. But one of the byproducts of chlorine is trihalomethanes, which is a known carcinogen. So we should not be drinking that chlorine. And it's sort of like a loaf of bread. When you go to the grocery store and you buy a loaf of bread, it comes in a plastic wrapper. And it comes in that plastic wrapper to keep everybody's fingers off of it and the germs and the dirt and the dust and all that stuff. When you get the bread to your house, before you eat the bread, you take it out of the plastic. That's the way chlorine is too. When it gets to the house, you should be taking that chlorine out of the water. And so, yeah, you want it in there to protect the water as it gets to your house. But once it gets to your house, it's like taking a loaf of bread out of the plastic. Think of little, stories or analogies or things that you can use like that during your presentation that explain what it is that you will be doing. Okay, and that's where the demonstrations come in on the soap flask and on the tea demonstration. That's the purpose of your demonstrations. Your test, your hardness test, your total dissolved your total dissolved solids test, your iron test, your pH test, all of those give you quantifiable numbers. It's these phrases and these demonstrations that are designed, that are supposed to take those tests and explain to them what they mean to the customer. So I want to talk very quickly about we're going to, coming near the end here, but I want to talk about the Water Quality Association, because those of you that either are certified or want to be certified, WQA, Water Quality Association, has marketing guidelines, and they have rules about what you can and cannot say in order to maintain your certification or to be a WQA member. And so I do think, as we're talking about these danger words and these phrases and these suggestions for language, I think it's important to recognize that they do have some guidelines here. For all claims, every claim that you make should be based in fact. You should know your statistics, know where they come from. Challenge yourself to know. If you hear something, I have a tendency to do this. I'll read something and I'll throw something out there, and you've got to make sure that you know. If you hear me say something and you want to know where it came from, call me, because if I didn't tell you, then I should have. All claims should be based in fact. It shouldn't be just made up. We shouldn't be making that stuff out. I always say, if you won't say it in front of a Dateline camera crew, don't say it, because it happens. We've all seen it. The local, your local news station decides to do some hidden camera sting. We've seen it on. They sort of make their cycles. They go through duct work, clean out people, and then it's the landscaping guy that screwed over some elderly people, and they just cycle through. And eventually, they're going to get to the water treatment companies, and they have an edit ability. They've got to take they've got to take your hour-and-a-half presentation and two other people that screwed over a customer or whatever, or maybe they're just focusing on you. They take your hour-and-a-half presentation, they cut out a little bit and piece, and they edit it, and they make it sound as scary and derogatory and bad as possible. That's what they do. That's what the news does. Okay? You've got to make sure that all of your claims are based in fact, and that you can justify what you said, when you said it, and how you said it, even if it was edited in a way that made it sound horrible. Make sure your claims are based in fact. Accurately represent the water source, treatment process, and benefits. This is why you should never bash your local municipal system. You should never, don't make an enemy with them. They've got more resources and more ability to make your life miserable than you do. Use accurate literature labeling. Perhaps talk to City Water or your competitors. Stay away from sweeping absolute statements. So, and be careful about using words like pure or healthy or purification or safe or contaminants. I talk about this with reverse osmosis. I often say it will give you as pure water as you can get through this technology or outside of a laboratory setting. But then I clarify, it's not, you can't have it's impossible to have pure water outside of a laboratory setting. You won't get it. And you are going to have some, we usually see a 90% rejection rate or better, 95 to 98%, but a minimum of 90% with the reverse osmosis systems. You can say that, make them understand that they are still going to have some total dissolved solids in that water, both because there's a certain percentage that does not get rejected through the RO membrane, but also because as soon as water touches the air, it begins to dissolve the dust and particles and stuff like that in the air. So it's impossible to have pure water outside of a laboratory setting. But be very careful about what you're saying and how you're wording those things. Every statement should be true in its entirety. Don't omit facts in order to mislead or misrepresent. Be able to explain the process and scope of all your water tests done. Know the rules using the words warranty and guarantee. You know, you don't have to have a written warranty for a warranty to be valid. If you tell somebody says, so is this going to take away all my iron? If you say, I guarantee this will take away 100% of your iron, that's a warranty. Whether it was in writing or not, that's a warranty. If you say, I promise this is going to make your water healthy and pure and not smell, that's a warranty. It's a warranty, whether it's written or not, and it is enforceable. Permission to use an endorsement. If you have neighbors or a local business or somebody else out there, make sure that you have permission to use an endorsement, to use their name. To make sure you get that permission. Okay, just a reminder, we are starting the MEP mentoring course May 4th. Anybody have comments on or questions or additional thoughts or anything else? We will be next our April member exclusive webinar. Topic information on that, but I believe that is going to be that we're going to. So we will send out information on that. Thank you again, everybody, very, very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate how people we have on. And if you missed any of this, then I should have it uploaded and placed onto the website within the next couple days. So thanks, everybody. Be safe. Hopefully we'll see you in Orlando next week.